I never thought I'd be standing in my driveway at 6 in the morning, snow blasting sideways, watching a silver Lexus SUV do its best impression of a drunken figure skater on the county road. But here I was, boots on, teeth chattering, cussing the wind. My name's Fletcher O'Donnell. I left Chicago for rural Wisconsin 3 years back, thinking I'd found peace. Turns out, trouble doesn't care about zip codes. It just needs an address. Now, the snow was coming down so heavy I could barely see my own breath, but I could sure hear the scream of that SUV's tires. Next thing I know, it's off the road and nose deep in the drainage ditch right at my property line. Out here, when the forecast says blizzard, they mean the kind that shuts down the county and dares you to step outside. I was ready, stocked up, generator fueled, locked in for the long haul. What I wasn't prepared for was dealing with a poor soul who'd managed to crash before sunrise. I trudged out, snow up to my knees, the wind like needles on my face. That engine was whining, wheels spinning in mud and powder, going nowhere fast. As I got close, I recognized the driver. Hell, I'd know that platinum blonde helmet anywhere. Patricia Whitmore, HOA president, queen of bylaws, and, let's be honest, the most consistent pain in my ass for the past year. She cracks her window and barks. "Fletcher, thank God you're here. Get me out of this ditch. Now." "Patricia, what are you doing out here?" I shout back, not quite believing my luck, or maybe my curse. She says she's coming back from her sister's in Madison, as if that's supposed to make sense. "Stop asking questions and help me," she snaps. I look at the mess. That Lexus isn't going anywhere without a tow. "You'll need a truck. There's no way I can pull you out by myself." "Then call one," she demands. I just laugh. "Patricia, nobody's coming out in this storm. Come inside, warm up, and wait it out." She looks at me like I suggested she sleep in a barn. "I most certainly will not. This is your fault anyway. You didn't shovel." I couldn't help it. I started to laugh, even with snow burning my eyes. "My fault? You drove off the road, Patricia." She points at my snow-covered driveway. "According to HOA guidelines, you're supposed to keep your driveway clear at all times." I tell her no one has clear driveways right now. Not even the plows have made it through. But she's undeterred. Everything's always someone else's fault with Patricia. Over the past year, she's sent me violations for my trash cans, my garden, even my Christmas lights. Now, apparently, my snow is at fault for her crash. "Look," I said, "argue with me later. Right now, you need to get out of the cold." She crosses her arms, stubborn as a mule. "Not until you admit this is your fault and agree to pay for the tow truck." I left her there, sitting in her car with snow piling up, figuring her stubbornness could keep her warm. 10 minutes later, my conscience got the better of me. When I went back, she was shivering, glass fogged up. "Patricia, you're going to freeze. Come inside." "Not unless you agree to my terms," she said through chattering teeth. "You want me to pay for a tow? For an accident you caused?" She stuck to her story. Finally, I gave up arguing. "Fine, come inside. We'll talk when you're warm." She tried to get out on her own, didn't want my help, slipped, and landed face first in the snow. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. Her hair, usually perfect, looked like a snowdrift. Her fancy boots sank deep, every step a fresh complaint about my neglected path. By the time we made it to my porch, we looked like a couple of Yetis. Inside, she stood dripping on my floor, taking in my Christmas decorations with a sneer. It's January 6th. HOA rules say decorations come down by the 5th. "Patricia, you just crashed into a ditch in a blizzard. Maybe let the rules slide for a minute." But she was already snapping photos on her phone, documenting everything. My driveway, my holiday lights, probably my coffee brand if she could find a violation for that. "You're serious about all this?" I asked, not sure if I wanted to laugh or scream. "I'm always serious about HOA matters," she replied, ice in her eyes. "You signed the covenants when you bought this house, Fletcher. You're financially responsible for my accident." I sat down across from her, coffee warming my hands. "No court will buy that, Patricia. You were driving in a blizzard. My driveway's not the problem." "We'll let the HOA board decide," she said, already dialing up an emergency meeting. Never mind that the county was shut down, roads closed by the governor, and nobody was going anywhere for at least 24 hours. The storm raged on. We were stuck together, me, a man who wanted nothing to do with drama, and her, a woman who breathed drama like air. Power flickered, went out, and I fired up the generator. Patricia paced the living room, anxiety finally peeking out from under all that bravado. "I need my medication," she said quietly. "It's at home." It was the first time she looked more human than bureaucrat. "If you start feeling unwell, let me know," I said, and for a second there was a truce. But by noon, her fire was back. Her phone rang. It was Gerald from the HOA board. She told him I was negligent, that my property had caused her accident, that I'd be fined and made to pay for her tow. Section 12, paragraph 4. She kept repeating, as if legalese could change the weather. That afternoon, the county plow finally made it through. Tom, the driver, took one look at Patricia's SUV and shook his head. "That'll be a job for a real tow, and it won't be quick," he said. Patricia didn't care. She was back on the phone, rallying the troops, determined to pin this on me. I dug through the HOA covenants with her binder. Sure enough, there was a clause, buried in legal jargon, about keeping walkways clear. But there was also a line about reasonable time after a weather event. I pointed that out. She bristled. "The storm started at midnight. You had hours to shovel." "Patricia, 8 inches fell overnight. No one in their right mind expects that to be clear by morning." She didn't care. She had her narrative, and she was sticking to it. 3 days later, I got a 5-page violation notice in the mail. $800 for the tow, $500 for breaking HOA rules, and threats of further legal action. I called a lawyer. Margaret Shun, sharp as a tack. "No court will uphold this," she said. "HOAs have power, but not that much." She helped me write a response denying responsibility. I figured that'd be the end. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, the HOA placed a lien on my property. I called Margaret in a panic. "Can they do this?" "They could try, but we'll fight it." So we went to court. Margaret gathered everything. Weather reports, photos of other driveways, statements from neighbors, even a few stories of Patricia's heavy-handed tactics. Turns out, I wasn't the only one she'd harassed. Robert Martinez, Sarah from down the street, even a former board member named Frank, they all agreed to testify. The hearing was in Madison. Patricia's lawyer laid out their case. I'd violated covenants, caused Patricia's accident. Patricia testified, painting herself as a victim of my laziness. Then Margaret called me up. I told my story, showed pictures, proved no one had clear driveways that morning. Our witnesses painted a picture of an HOA president gone rogue, rewriting covenants, fining people for dandelions, swing sets, even parking in their own driveway. Frank Williams, who'd resigned from the board, dropped the bomb. She rewrote large sections of the covenants without approval, just added them herself, and started enforcing them. Judge Brennan didn't even blink. This case is without merit. No reasonable person would expect a homeowner to shovel during an active blizzard. The lien is removed. The HOA pays Mr. O'Donnell's legal fees. And I'm ordering an investigation into the HOA's governance. Patricia turned beet red. "This is outrageous." "The rules." "Mrs. Whitmore, sit down. Your authority does not extend to holding homeowners responsible for your own accidents." Word spread fast. The next HOA meeting was packed. People finally stood up, asked questions. Why had Patricia changed the rules? Who gave her authority to place liens? The board voted to hold a special election. Robert Martinez ran for president and won by a landslide. First order of business: repeal most of Patricia's emergency rules, limit the president's power, and make sure no one could ever rewrite covenants without a board vote. Patricia sat in the back, arms crossed, furious. When it was her turn to speak, she warned that standards will slip, property values will fall. Robert just smiled and said, "People just want to live their lives without being harassed." A month later, Margaret called me with news. The state's investigation found Patricia hadn't just rewritten covenants. She'd been pocketing fines, about $15,000 over 2 years. She was charged with embezzlement and fraud. I watched the trial. Patricia claimed it was a misunderstanding, but the jury didn't buy it. She got 18 months plus restitution. That day in court, I felt relieved, vindicated, and maybe a little sad. She'd ruined her life chasing power. After Patricia left, the neighborhood changed. Barbecues, potlucks, community garden, actual community. The board handled things like grown-ups. Violations? A friendly reminder, not a threat. My dog Murphy lounged on the porch, chasing butterflies in a garden full of unapproved flowers. I still pass the spot where Patricia's SUV crashed every morning. It's just a ditch now. Her old house is owned by a young family. Kids, a yellow front door, Christmas lights up until February. No one cares. Life is normal, and I finally have what I wanted. Peace. I even got elected to the board myself, years later. We discuss real problems, tree trimming, playground repairs. The Patricia years are a lesson everyone remembers. Rules matter, but so does reason. That blizzard became a legend. New folks always hear the story of the HOA president who tried to find a neighbor for snow and wound up in jail for stealing from everyone. As for Patricia, last I heard, her ex-husband sued her for a share of the embezzled money. She lost the house, her reputation, maybe even her family. All for control she never really had. If there's a lesson here, it's that rules should protect people, not control them. Stand up for yourself, especially when someone with power is acting unreasonably. Because when enough people do, even the biggest storm can't bury the truth forever. So, let me ask you, where do you draw the line between order and overreach? When does standing up for yourself become a duty to everyone else? Drop your thoughts below, share your own HOA stories, and let's talk about what real community means.